Thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Hello, I'm Stephen Willis from the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. I'm joined by Josh Guest for his weekly segment on all things Ole Miss sports. You know, Josh, we kind of have a little bit to talk about, but there's not a whole lot. But baseball starts pretty much a week from today, and I'm pretty excited about that.
Me too, Stephen. And I know I've said it before. We're a baseball family, and not Ole Miss related. My son plays in high school. They moved their game up because of rain to tomorrow. So actually today, on Thursday. So I'm excited about that. I keep getting Friday in my mind because it was supposed to be moved up to Friday, but they moved it up to today on Thursday. And then Northwest is either going to play Thursday or Friday, depending on the rain. And then next week, Ole Miss. So baseball is about to be underway in a major way. And you got some, spring training games and stuff you might could catch if you're a major league fan. I grew up a Mariners fan. Ken Griffey Jr., my all-time favorite swing in baseball. And I see, is that Tigers? Is that? Yeah. And so, it's all good stuff. Loving it. Can't wait for the Rebels to be at home. I know they start in Hawaii, which I have gotten pressure from my daughter and my wife for us to go to that series. Of course, we're not going to go, but I can't imagine why they would want to go to that away series. But it is LSU. We had talked about it briefly. We are going to target LSU as a family for an SEC or SEC away series this year and go to Baton Rouge, which should be a lot of fun. Hopefully, both teams will be really good. LSU is typically a strong, power in not just SEC baseball, but national baseball year in and year out. So hopefully the Rebels can do their part this year, and we can go down there and see a good series in Baton Rouge.
Yes, heading down to Red Stick, the defending national champions, the whole 9 yards. The last time Ole Miss was down there, I think they swept them, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was the first time in how long? It's been a while. I don't know.
Yeah, it's been a minute. So we'll see. It's like I think Trayson Hughes made an All-American team. The players get some recognition. I'm interested to see what this team would look like because for the last 3 years, you kind of get used to the exact names and everything. And so we'll see exactly how that goes after Ole Miss had a disappointing season last season.
Well, and Steve, you talk about the names. It's something I haven't done my homework on as far as the new guys. I saw them in the fall. Can't remember all their names. And, but I tell you what, we lost another pitcher, another starter, and that's going to hurt. And so, and a lefty at that. So it's hard to navigate at that level, at this level, SEC level of baseball, without a true lefty starter of the caliber of either Rivas or Elliott, for that matter. So hopefully somebody's able to step in that role. Hopefully we have somebody else that can move into that and is ready. But if you watched Ole Miss baseball ever, Bianco likes to Elliott was a special case. He slid in his freshman year and kind of took over the reins. But, yeah, I guess if you go back, Pomerantz maybe did some of that, Lance Lynn possibly. But you have to go pretty far back to find a freshman who made that big of an impact that early. And so and it's a learning curve. I mean, those guys, every one of the pitchers that anybody gets in the SEC was more than likely completely dominant in high school. Mm-hmm. And they step up to this level, and it just becomes more difficult because everybody you're facing at the plate was the best player on their team, probably, or the second best player on their team in high school. And so, when you face a whole bunch of all-stars from high school, then it becomes a little harder to get it done. And the same thing goes for the hitters. I mean, they're facing the best pitchers, that are out there. So it's just fun to see, fun to watch, and super excited to get started here in a week.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about like Major League Baseball, okay? Every player that plays on a Major League Baseball team is the greatest player that has ever come out of their hometown. And it works backwards from there. I mean, it's at the point, Ole Miss in the SEC, probably the best baseball players they've seen in generations in certain areas. And, I mean, it's pretty cool to see the progression that a kid has to go to get up to that Major League level. And like TJ Quinn and Grayson Chaunier, I mean, they're expecting big things out of him. I'm going to start recording, I think, next week with Derek Vandegrift, who's our inside baseball guy. And I'm just kind of excited to see exactly what it looks for, because last season was such a dire baseball season.
Mm-hmm.
After winning the national championship, you come back and that happens. I think I saw something on, I don't know if it was Baseball America. It was some sort of a graphic on Twitter who was doing some kind of a ranking for the West. They had Ole Miss predicted 6th in the West, like one ahead of Mississippi State. And I'm just curious. I think there's a lot of uncertainty with this baseball team right now.
I think so too. But I mean, if you had to finish 6th, is there a better team to finish ahead of than State?
That is true.
I mean,
that is absolutely true. And I also didn't realize that divisions still happen in SEC baseball.
You know, we were trying to think about that the other day at the house, and we were talking about how it had gone away in basketball, and football was going away next year. And I remember, you know, something last year.
Baseball. Yeah,
it didn't click that it still was there in baseball. So
it's interesting. Tuesday night, Ole Miss went up to South Carolina and played South Carolina in basketball, and they shot the ever-loving crap out of the basketball to the tune of like 7 out of 10 from three-point range at the beginning. Built up a big enough lead. Chris Beard kind of drew a line in the sand for his players that was going to play defense, and they started shutting South Carolina down, and the comeback happened. Ole Miss had 2 or 3 shots up in the air with a chance to tie the game. They just couldn't quite get it done.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing that baffled me, and maybe he just didn't know how much time, was the Morrell shooting it with about 2.5 left, you know, kind of running down the floor, didn't really get set. There was a defender there, you know, it was before the last foul, you know, and so I think it was a 3-point game and it would have tied it. I just felt like in that situation, you didn't want a guy to panic like that. And panic may not be the right word, but it felt like it was a little bit of a panic by him there. And it may have just been he didn't realize there was that much time left. And so that was a little sad to see after that comeback and that fight that they had. But on the flip side, man, it was good to see the fight and the get back in the game in a tough environment by a team that is absolutely red hot right now. The Gamecocks are red hot.
After watching that game, I don't have doubts that Ole Miss can beat South Carolina at home. In the second half, Ole Miss handled them. They just fell behind. I think the lead got to 17 before Ole Miss just decided, okay, that's enough. Let's get it done. And they were able to like come all the way. Like I said, there was 2 or 3 shots in the game that went up with a chance to tie it. Now, before we get out of here, we're about a month away from spring football. Wednesday was National Signing Day, or what used to be National Signing Day. And what players what do you want to see? What do you want to see? Also, I figured out the correct pronunciation of Kedrick Risino. No, Risino. Sorry. Risino.
Oh, Risino.
Yeah, the C is silent. Risino.
Okay, Risino. So he was actually the first one I was going to name. You know, I know Matt Jones has gotten some playing time, and so you would think with that maybe Risino is further down the line or whatnot. But I want to see him with the ball. I want to see what he can do. I mean, some of these younger guys too on the defensive line that are coming in, because they're going to probably rotate in and out. Would you say the defensive line is the deepest spot on the field? I mean, I think we're pretty deep there.
I think the wide receiver unit's a little bit deeper.
True.
Yeah, but the defensive line is very good. If you're looking at units in the SEC, the wide receiver unit would be at a clear number 1. Defensive line might be number 1. So I think that clear number 1 kind of wins.
Yeah. Well, and I just think that there's deep. There's, you know, see some of those younger guys that we got on that signing day. You know, that used to be such an event. I remember going to one of those, the dinners they had on one of those nights when Freeze was here, and they announced all the people they were getting that day or who they had signed. And it was so fun. We were in the IPF and all that kind of stuff. And now it's almost an afterthought, you know, with the portal, and especially how well we did in the portal this year. And it's no surprise. Again, Kiffin just seems to be able to adapt. And I think in today's college football, that might be one of the greatest traits of a successful coach right now, is being able to adapt. And so super excited about that. But other guys on the field, I do want to see some of the receivers that we got. Juice Wells would be a great one to watch. What does he have, in spring ball? And then, maybe some of the linemen, but I mean, people don't sit there and watch games and go, oh, look at that lineman block somebody. We notice when they mess up, but we don't necessarily go, man, that was a great, effort by the O-line there. And so, I try to, when I'm on the radio, by the way, for the high school, I do try to call out the offensive linemen when they do a good job, just because they're so overlooked. And the guy that I call the games with, he said, this is going to be one of your jobs, is you need to call those names out, especially when they have a good series or a good play or something, and just read out the names across the line. And so I do that from time to time, and those guys are often overlooked. But Ricino, you said?
Ricino,
the running back, I really want to see him get the ball and tote it. And then, also how well of a receiver is he out of the backfield? I'd like to know that, or any of the backs for that matter. I think Bentley has shown what he can do and how explosive he can be. So that's kind of, to me, a given, the players we've had. But for players that we haven't seen much of, I'd like to see Juice Wells in our uniform with our quarterback, our team running routes and catching balls and running after the catch and that kind of stuff. And Ricino. But, we'll see how it pans out. Exciting times to be a Rebel in all the sports, even though, if we're being realistic, the Auburn game at home, the South Carolina game on the road, and then Kentucky this weekend, you kind of had to expect 3 losses there. Mm-hmm. And if you told me before the season started that after 24 games, Ole Miss would be 18-6, I would have taken it every single time in any format you would have offered it to me. So I can't. Isn't that what it would be, 18-6 if we lose at Kentucky?
Something like that, yeah.
Whatever it would be, it's close to that. I would have taken it and probably most Ole Miss fans would have after last year. So,
in my opinion, 9-9 should have been the goal the whole time.
Yeah. Yes, and you've been saying it all along, and I completely agree. And that would be, was that 22 wins is what it puts us at? Something
like that, yeah.
That'd be a great first season for Beard. And then like you said, baseball starting, spring football coming. Not as fast paced as it was with the bowl game coming up and season going on for football and that kind of stuff. But man, it still is fun and exciting. Just all the things going on with Ole Miss athletics all around the board.
Yeah, this really is. This might be the best time to be an Ole Miss fan ever, because baseball still, all the hope is out there. Basketball is doing fine. It's doing really well. And football just set a school record for the number of wins in a season. It's projected in the top 5 in the fall. I mean, this literally is take a snapshot and remember where you were at this moment, honestly.
That's right. The only thing that kind of hurts me a little bit is these kids growing up right now that are small and becoming Ole Miss fans. They're going to expect it. So hopefully the teams can deliver over time for those guys. Because for you and I, this is really the golden age for us, because we weren't around in the 60s and early 70s whenever Ole Miss was really good in football and some things. So this is really, really, really a good time for us too.
Yeah. And if you look at it, like my dad was born in 1950, which means from 58 to 63, which is the considered glory days period, he was 8 to 13, completely in that impressionable stage. But I can't imagine how hard it was for him after it.
Yes. Yeah. The next 30 or 40 years.
Yeah. It's like, whoa. Anyway, thank you for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Josh Guest joins the show as he always does. Thank you so much, Josh. We'll see you next week, bud.
That's right. Hotty toddy, go Rebs.
Hotty toddy.